Hello and welcome to Quick Take TA here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is May 21st, 2024, and we are looking at Bitcoin today. We'll also take a look at Ethereum and Solana very quickly as well. Let's jump right into it. Last that we spoke in recorded format, now we have had a couple live streams since then, but this was last Tuesday. I believe it was right around here on the 14th. Bitcoin was backtesting the monthly closing area from October of 2021. It was also a local support zone in and around 61,000 to 61,350. Now, I had mentioned for Bitcoin to actually set a low, it needed to start closing back above 63,500 or so, and then go and test around 65.5 and specifically take out to the upside this 65.5 downtrending wick high. Now, this was a higher low to a downtrend break. The next area that we were looking for has now been tagged as well. That was the next lower high to the upside there at 67,300. You can see that Bitcoin did find short-term resistance over the weekend in that area. And then subsequently on Monday's open, elevated itself right up through that area to our next big target zone. Now we had in the shorter term timeframes, we did see the initial targets get hit $68,000 to $70,000. It found short-term resistance there, came back down, and then headed right back up and headed to the next big area to the upside. And that's right around the high side structure that was just below the all-time high here. And this is coming in around $70,000 to $73,000. So Bitcoin is, kind of playing in this area and finding some short-term resistance here. Now, will this turn into a daily high zone? We can actually determine that pretty easily. Bitcoin has backtested the prior all-time high at around $69,000, and it has been holding up very well above the upper first standard deviation since its recovery and expansion to the upside that occurred on Wednesday of last week. So there is kind of a safe zone for Bitcoin to pull back to, and that's down here at the upper first standard deviation between 67,800, 67,750 to around $69,000. That would be the strong zone for Bitcoin to pull back to in the lower term timeframes. Now, we really don't want to see it closing below there. And specifically, you don't really want to see it closing below this swing low. Now, this is not a closing high and, up here, but it is a swing high to swing low structure. Now that's coming in just around or above this prior high at 67,300. This is around 67.5 with that swing low coming in around 65,850. Now, if Bitcoin were to take that out, be aware of $65,000 where the daily basis band is. You do want to see Bitcoin holding this area to remain bullish for further upside in the more immediate short-term timeframes below the weekly. Now, if it did lose that area, it can save itself around the highs here at around $64,000, anywhere below there. And I do think this would be a failed rally. We'd be looking right back to this higher low that would actually become a danger zone. But as it stands right now, Bitcoin looks very, very strong. If it can start closing shorter term timeframes back above this rejected area, which we can actually draw a little box around right now, we can go ahead and get some horizontals in here. See the Bitcoin tested this high at 71,600, nearly directly in the Monday candle, wicked up through it to run that high in the lower term timeframes in the Tuesday candle, and then also came back down and tested around $69,000. So this area up here to the all-time high is the primary overhead resistance now, and we can mark that off. If Bitcoin does start to break above here, I think I've made this pretty clear in the prior videos and the live streams. I'm looking around 75 to 78 initially, and then 78 to $80,000. Now, the 75 to 78 isn't necessarily like Bitcoin is going to, put in short-term highs around the daily, but it is going to be a pretty significant area of resistance that I'll show you in just a moment. I do want you to note that if Bitcoin does trade above the daily upper second standard deviation here, we are looking at around $71,000. Look back to its local high structure around this 71,900 to 72K, and then up to around the next high at 73 to the all-time high at 73,835. You can see that the upper third standard deviation on the daily is right there around the prior all-time high now, or the most current all-time high there at 73,835. So this typically, when you're in and around the upper third and playing between the upper second and upper third, you want to see price walk its way up and kind of grind its way up the upper second standard deviation and upper third and kind of remain above the upper second. Dips below and deviations below that kind of hold the upper first are going to give you the bias that, price is going to continue to get that close over close markup. In this case, looks very good above $69,000, can even take a nice dip down to $67,750, as I said before. Now, when we look at daily momentum, we can see that we are getting up there. The current pivot is at 70,740. We are looking at a potential cross to the downside, but in the context of where the bands are in terms of volatility levels and where the support area is between $65,000 to $69,000, I would generally be favoring a bullish reset if this is going to hold some of those areas. So even if it did begin to cross down, I'd be looking for it kind of either oscillating in the overbought zone here and or coming down for a nice bullish reset. We can see that I haven't mentioned this in a little while, but since the trend changed on the lows, or the trend has changed on the lows now because we have higher low structure now, we might see the bearish divergence start to populate on subsequent highs from some of the other structures over here. But the bearish divergence there is hidden bearish divergence, and it's not quite as powerful, more corrective than not. And Bitcoin just kind of skating its way into the bullish control zone here. Not a big deal. Looks very good. And what I would be looking for in terms of divergences is in move or in trend regular bearish divergence. And so far, we haven't seen anything indicating that that is going to be available, at minimum until it puts in a local high on this current move. So looking very good. Let's go ahead and just go up the time frames a little bit here just to double check on a few things. We have the 2-day that just opened. Bitcoin did close back above the upper second standard deviation and wick into and get an initial lower term time frame rejection off of the upper third, currently trading around the upper second. So again, you can see that it's currently trying to turn its trend around on the 2-day. We do have higher low and higher high structure, so another higher low is what we would expect if this is going to maintain its bullish posture. Where would I like to see that if it were to top out right here? Again, somewhere locally above the upper first standard deviation on the 2-day. That's coming in a little bit below the upper first on the daily at $67,000. Now, realistically, I think anything, 65, 66 around the April of 2021 monthly swing high is fine. You might see different indicators fire off different bearish signals, but as long as it's staying above the prior higher low structure, which is all the way down here at 60,150, it's looking fine. So looks good. We can see that we have a really nice upside on the momentum oscillator here above 64,730. So again, above $65,000 to $66,000. Even if we did start to see it breaking down into that big support zone from the prior all-time high wicks between 65 and 69,000. Not a big deal as long as it's holding higher low structure. I'd be looking for bullish resets on momentum oscillators like this. Same for the 3-day. 3-day, we do not have a closure coming in for another 2 days here, but it is worth noting that the last 3-day closure came in above the upper first standard deviation. We do have a complex lower low set here, but a nice swing. This was a really beautiful swing higher low. So we don't have necessarily, this was not a closing low structure here. The closing low structure came in next to it. So we have a downtrending swing structure with a swing lower low and then a swing higher low. So from here, in the context of the 3-day, I'm not looking for expansion just yet until we see Bitcoin breaking out above its all-time high. Excuse my voice today, it's a little shaky. But basically above 73,835, I'm looking for 75 to 78, 78 to 80, and the mid to low 80s from there. Possibly even up to $90,000. I don't know if that would be in the cards this month, but maybe coming into next month if it does initiate a move and a breakout above the all-time high. Looks good for momentum. 61,850 is going to be the momentum pivot. We have a beautiful squeeze on this 4-day. So this is also another area that we need to pay attention to because expansion of the 4-day is going to be very key here. When looking at the 4-day, we have a beautiful complex double lows being set here with a nice swing lower low. So we have a complex single low, but there is two or three swing lows in here, which is beautiful. This is just beautiful, right into support. Nice, expansion to compression, testing the downside of that compression as it was getting that compression coming up. And now we see that the upper second standard deviation is just overhead. We do need to see Bitcoin closing up above about $69,000 in the next 2-day closure. That would give us the bias from a volatility standpoint on the 4-day chart that the upper second is the likely target. And even wicks through our fine, and we need to see closures above there and the all-time high to kick off expansion to the upside, and that would be in a very aggressive manner. I don't think it's ready just yet, and I do want to reference this. We do see a bit of bullish divergence playing out here on this nice bounce up, but I want to reference this as I don't think that it's ready just yet until we start seeing Bitcoin close above that upper second and start breaking out above the all-time high. That's when we're going to see the volatility metric here, which is called BBWP, get up over the moving average and start really confirming an expansion phase on a longer term time frame like the 4-day. Moving into the 5-day here, we had a beautiful swing of the basis band here, which is coming in at $65,000. You don't want to see that lost on the 5-day, that's for sure. This is coming in for a close in the next 3 days. So, in the context of where the 5-day is, it's hanging around its current trading area, the upper first standard deviation on the 5-day. We do need to see this broken above and closed above in the next 3 days to close this 5-day candle above there, which will give us the bias that it's going to go and test the upper second standard deviation and the overhead resistance. So that being the all-time high to the upper second around $75,000. You can see the upper third is up there around $80,000. So very nice. Now moving back down the time frames, we'll get to the weekly towards the end of the week, but you can see that the upper third is up here on the 4-day at $75,000. You can see that the 3-day, which is going to be closing with the 4-day in this next 2-day time period, we're again looking at around $76,000. The 2-day over here, of course, that upper third is right there. So we got a 2-day, 3-day, 4-day all coming in the next 2 days. And then in 3 days, we've got that 5-day to look forward to. So that's all occurring, towards the latter half of the active trading week for professionals coming into the weekend. So very, very nice. I love the structure. Looks great. Let's drop to the lower term timeframes real quick, and you can see how the 4 hour got nice compression, expansive recovery of this, $65,000 area retest, maintained above the basis band here in the strong half of the bands. Did come down and lose it, but it lost it in the context of higher low structure here on the 4 hour, and then got nice compression, re-expansion to the upside right through back test down to that $69,000 before moving on to test the all-time high structure there and swing it, come back down, and preferably for immediate moves back into the all-time to test the all-time high. You do want to see around that $68,000 to $69,000, can drop to $67,350, but or $67,750. I'm sorry, not $67,350, $67,750. But you don't want to see closures below there on the 4 hour time frame, as that would indicate that it's going to test down further into the $67,000 area, possibly even mid to upper 66s by the lower first standard deviation here, somewhere around this consolidation before the breakout to retest the all-time highs. So that's going to do it for Bitcoin. I think it's pretty clear. I'll have a stream tomorrow where I cover more of this. And let's go ahead and move on very quickly to get a quick take TA for each one of these. You'll just have to take them in parts because this is going to be a little bit of a longer video. When looking at ETH, we can see that I have ETH right here with Bitcoin. Yes, the news is encouraging regarding the SEC maybe changing its stance on ETH. I do want you to know that this is a fresh breakout of the lows and a very powerful one on expansion for ETH. It did get a trend break all in one candle. It was trying to, it was threatening to paint coming into Monday, threatening to paint another lower high. But even then, I think it was getting ready to kind of turn things around. This support area was tested a lot between this last pit stop, and realistically, it didn't even get close to the breakdown point, which was at 2720. So this was looking strong on the daily. There was also a lot of bullish divergence building on the daily here. So if we go to RSI really quickly, this was giving us all the clues that, the last higher low that was, or I'm sorry, the last low that was set, not a higher low. This ends up being a swing higher low that came in on Monday, right around the basis band. But, we had a slew of lows coming in here, all on bullish divergence. This was telling you that things were likely going to turn around for ETH and head to the upside and at least test for a downtrend break. So this was not purely news driven. There were technical indications, and we did, as I mentioned in the last live stream, there was already a momentum shift on the daily for ETH, and was looking very, very good to at least, at minimum, go and test, somewhere around this high, and it needed to break out above 32,220, and then go and test specifically around this 3350 or so. Above there, we were looking right to the zone that it actually headed to on Monday, and that was between 3520 and around 37,700 or so. Now, this 3726, sorry, 37,700. No, it is not even close to that. It's 3726. So we had 3520 to 3725 or so. Getting above and closing above this high area does mean that we need to see, very, very bullish. We want to see this hanging out above the upper second standard deviation, and then that would give it a chance to go test the May and August of 2021 closing highs here. This was on a weekly basis, and that's coming in at just around 3950. Now, if it does head back down, I would give it room. It can come down to the upper second here, which is around 36,669. Nice. That's right around this high side rejection area prior to putting in a slightly higher high and then turning things around to dump out. But it can even come all the way down to this zone here. Now, this isn't specifically marked as a weekly. It's more of a daily structure. You can see that this was a rejective area, and then Bitcoin kind of oscillated around. But this is mainly derived off of some volume stuff that I'll show you in the live stream. And that's coming in at around 35,520. So I would want to see that area held. It could even go for a retest back down here and still be safe at around 3350 or so by the upper first standard deviation. But for a more immediate continuation, you want to see it holding around 35, 36 especially. So above 36, probably looking for this to head up, and test around that 3950, and then the actual highs that it put in back in March coming in at around $4,000, 4,100 area. There is a December weekly high just above there at 4,160 or so. Now, keep in mind that it has not, done the same, and many alts have not done the same that Bitcoin has done and tested their all-time highs. But the November 2021 closing all-time high and the current closing all-time high for ETH on a monthly basis is at 46.34, and the all-time high is coming in there just under 5K at around 48.67. Could it get there, sooner rather than later? I would say it's very likely that it could test back down, even if it does test up in and around the 4K to 4,200 or so. It's very likely, profit taking zones right around this area and just above it. Where we'll see at minimum shorter term time frame profit taking, and then we'll see what happens once it breaks out above that December 2021 weekly high. To maintain this move in terms of structure, as long as it's closing above $3,050, looks good. So this is a move in progress. It's expansion currently ongoing. I wouldn't fight it. 2 days turned around as well. We already saw this developing back here on the multiple drives of bullish divergence down here. We had 3 days, which is not necessarily in bull div territory, I don't believe. Yeah, actually, it was. It was in bull div territory, yeah. So it just wasn't populating on most indicators, but, big move up, testing the upper second standard deviation on the 3-day. Looks good. Upper thirds right there in that May to August weeklies to December, around that 3950 to 4150 area. You can call it basically 4K to 4200 is roughly what people are probably going to be looking for, and where you're going to see most of the asks coming in if Bitcoin can hold this area. You can see the upper first standard deviation is also down here at 3520. So again, 3500. You want to see that hold on any downside moves in between now and the next video. And then to the upside, you want to see it taking out 38 and heading towards that 3950 to 4150. And that would be continuation to start looking for the highs again and higher. Looks very good. Now, ETH has been a little late. It's been in quite a long downtrend. Nice move back up. Nice response to some of that ETF news. And really that ETF news right now, by the way, is just speculation. So I do want you to understand that. Let's go ahead and look at Sol, and then we'll move on. So Sol was in a beautiful, beautiful structure here. Sol was an early mover back in Wednesday of last week. So the 15th, it set its daily low structure. And realistically, lower term time frame breakouts above 160, we're targeting this high right here, where we did see weekend resistance. So we saw resistance over the weekend in the same areas. Bitcoin also saw resistance at its main overhead resistance after breaking the downtrend. So, 160 was the breakout. The next big area to pay attention to was the 175 to 176.34 here. We saw a nice Monday candle move through, and then we have seen a back test. So a nice back test of that. Could it swing down below here? There is a little bit of an order block zone between, coming in from Sunday's candle. You could even take the wick low there. Anything above 160, and I'd be looking for this to continue up and away. Last higher low structure is, all the way back here at 140 on a close and 137.82 on a wick. So, this thing can pull back. I'd in general be looking, it already took 184.63, 185 area on a close open. So this is showing that it can, continue to push. But I do want you to note that there is this short-term low structure right here at around 186 that it did kind of fail at. Anywhere back above its highs here, and I'm looking to, at minimum, we're looking 190 to 200 area, and then back to the highs at just around 205 to 208 at this overhead resistance from the prior cycle here. This is a big area. This is a very volatile area from the prior cycle. That's 208 all the way up to 260. So could we get some elevator action from Sol here? We could. And again, anything in my opinion above 160 looking good. Moves down to the upper first that hold around 170 are going to be particularly bullish. And, I would be looking for more. Basis is starting to crawl its way towards 160. I do want to see the basis above 160. Right now it's currently at 156. Wicks in and around there that close above 160 would be fine for this current move. And really, really any higher lows that are coming in above, 140 are fine. So looking good. Move in progress as well. Not quite as powerful as ETH. Didn't get, obviously, ETF news backing it, but it was already moving. It was already well in progress. If you were to aggregate the moves on Sol and ETH in terms of percentages, ETH just made that percentage up in a very short period of time that Sol has already been doing. So pretty good plays on the alts for the majors. And, I would expect that, especially with Bitcoin breaking the downtrend, regardless. And then, extra nice news always helps as well. I'd be looking for a bullish reset on momentum for Sol as well, as long as it, can start trading back above 183 as it currently stands. But again, it can come all the way down to 160 structurally, be fine. And then I'd be looking for a bullish reset on momentum. It is currently turned down. That's going to do it for me today. Of course, this is not a quick take TA, so I will label this as not so quick take TA, as we have done 3 different coins here. And I will be back tomorrow and for a live stream, so go ahead and join me. It should be about, I think it's going to be somewhere around 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So consult your local time zone and come on through and hang out with me on stream, ask questions, that kind of stuff. So, and I believe, yes, that is going to be Wednesday, right? Yep, Wednesday. Today's Tuesday. I should know that. I'm looking at the chart and it has dates right there. All right. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out.